This lovely country road goes under the official road number of P1660. To the locals and on many maps, it's labelled as the Klipprivier Road, which is something of a misnomer, as the Klipprivier is merely one of the tributaries of the main river along the kloof, which is of course the Rivier. The official name of the kloof is the Klein Langkloof, as it is to all intents and purposes a smaller version of the actual Langkloof, which lies directly to the north. This is technically not really a pass, it's much more of a poort, as the road more or less follows the course of the river for most of its length. The road offers exceptionally attractive scenery as it follows the course of the River Valley. There are fruit farms, misty mountains, tree-filled kloofs and dozens of small streams. Whilst it cannot be compared to the Langkloof section of the Prince Alfred's Pass, it does offer a wonderful alternative and in some instances a substantial shortcut and saving in time. It's a fairly long drive at 25.3 kilometers and displays an altitude variance of 254 meters, with the higher elevation being at its western end. From the eastern starting point, whilst facing north, and just before the River, there's a gravel road that heads west marked as the P1660. A sign indicates N9 George. There is a sign on the left showing W.J. Birchall 1814, and within a few meters you'll cross a cattle grid, and immediately thereafter the road passes close to an old farmstead on the left. Throughout this drive you need to be wary about pedestrians as well as livestock on the road, as the valley is extensively farmed, especially the western sector. For the first few kilometers, the road is hacked out of the mountainside, remaining a few meters higher than the river on your right. Here and there you'll catch glimpses of the river as you proceed up the road, and watch out for goats along this first section. This eastern part of the valley is lush with greenery and trees, and as progress is made westwards, the vegetation thins out steadily, eventually becoming much more karoo-like. Bushbuck are commonly spotted along this stretch. The primary point of interest on this road is of course Birchall's ox wagon route, but we'll get to that a little bit later. The road has lots of sharp ends, 115 in total, of which 14 are greater than 90 degrees and 5 of them are very tight hairpins. To approach from the east as we filmed it, drive to De Vlucht on the R339, either from the north via Avontuur or from the south via Knysna. Before you start this very enjoyable drive, we recommend exploring the little hamlet of De Vlucht. Stop in at Angie's G-Spot for a light meal where you'll get detailed local knowledge. It's also here in De Vlucht that Thomas Paine's old house still stands, where he kept his family during the long construction phase of the Prince Alfred's Pass. You can also visit the old jail, the old school, as well as the giant ficus tree close to the turn-off onto our route. De Vlucht is situated on the banks of the River, approximately 55 kilometers north of Knysna. It originated as a construction camp for the 270 convicts who built the Prince Alfred's Pass in 1861, and later became a small community that emerged around the camp. At the Plaaskind Padstal, welcoming owner Adrie van Rooyen makes mean moer coffee, as well as light meals, breakfast and cakes, all of which can be enjoyed in the ample shade of the old ficus tree. You'll also find a gift shop and a range of bric-a-brac, plus some local produce including preserves and goat's cheese. Much of this lovely drive is marred by invasive trees from Australia. These are mostly black wattle and blue gum. At the 4.4 kilometer mark, an old farm cottage appears right next to the road on the right-hand side. This is followed immediately by a cattle grid. Please heed the 20 km/h warning, as there's a sharp dip after the cattle grid. Just after this point, the road breaks out of the riverine bush and begins gaining altitude, but the gradients never exceed 1 in 14. The road also leaves the close proximity of the river at this point. At the 5.8 kilometer mark, two small signs on the right-hand side announce J.W. Birchall, which is a brown tourism sign, followed almost immediately by a blue and white sign marked Pietersrivier Nature Reserve. These two signs are in the shade of a big tree and not that easy to spot. Exactly 400 meters further is the turn-off to the farm of Katot Meyer, and if you intend driving the Birchall Oxwagon 4x4 route, you'll need to stop in here. Be sure to watch part 2 of the Klein Langkloof series.